Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Gukarastu Andhakaro Vai Rukarastu Nivartakaha Andhakara Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidhiyate Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvisha vahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Ahamasmi sadabhami kadachit nahamapriyaha Brahmaiva aham hatas siddham Satchidananda Lakshanam. So, if you revised your notes from last class, you will remember that for any cognition to take place, the seer and the seen must be in the same family. Called Sajatiya. They must be Sajatiya. They cannot be Vijatiya. So we saw the example of this. This is the basic principle of Shrishti. This is the Niyama. And what is the Niyama? What is the basic principle? That the seer and the seen must belong to the same family. They must share the same ingredients. So we saw this, that in the case of smelling, the nose, which is the instrument of smelling, and an object that the nose is smelling, like a rose, must have the same tanmatra. And so this is what is called Anvaya Pratireka. Anvaya means that they must be in the same. Vyatireka means that it also proves, this niyama is proven by the fact that if the eyes want to smell, they cannot smell. Why? Because the eye belongs to a different tanmatra. Only the roop, it can only see the tanmatra of the forms. So therefore all the 5 sense organs are so arranged that they all have their own objects. And each of the seer and seen relationship is based on the same jati. So this we saw last week. So now let us look at our overall life's experiences. So if I am the Sakshi, which I am, cognizing the world, the niyama remains the same. There's a very common niyama for the whole Srishti. We don't have different rules for different things. That can happen in our Jiva Srishti during during the dream. We can make up anything and they don't seem to make any sense. But the Ishvara Srishti, which gives to the Jagrat Avastha, has very consistent niyama. And so, for example, the water must boil at 100 degrees centigrade. Always the same centigrade. And if it boils at a different temperature, it is because the elevation is different. But at the sea level, all waters only boil at 100 degrees centigrade. So this is the niyama. This is the order in the universe. So if that is the case, then the Sakshi that cognizes the world, I, Sakshi means I, you cognize the world. So therefore, you and the world must belong to the same jati. Right? The seer and the seen. You are the seer and the entire Jagat, the world, is the seen. So they must belong to the same jati. So then both the Atma, which is the Sakshi, which is you, and the Anatma, which is the world that you experience, how can they be in the same jati? This is what we have to see. Okay? So let us look into this. So there are, if we analyze this experience and how this happens, each one of us cognizes the world in three different aspects. So we cognize the world because the world is. If there is no experience, then we do not have that experience. It's obvious, very obvious sentence. If there is nothing there to experience, then we do not experience it. So if we experience something, then it must be there. So that means the world is, things are. So they are. So the astitvam means the beingness of being, the beingness of the world, the isness of the world. Asti and astitvam. Astitvam means the very quality of being there, is there. So the world is. This is number one. The second one is that the world is known. And in fact, the asti and the known go together. You cannot know something until it is there, and you cannot perceive something to be there until you can cognize it. So now we have two qualities of the world, astitvam and bhatitvam. It can be cognized, it is known. Now the third quality is that each experience of the world creates varying degrees of sukha and dukkha. They have some guna, some quality that is cognized by the Sakshi. So either the Sakshi is happy about cognizing something, or unhappy about cognizing something, or the mixture of in between. So in between there's a don't care. If there is a you go on a hike and there are some rocks, it doesn't matter to you. It does not really obstruct your... If there is a rock on the road and you're driving, then it's an unpleasant experience. And if the road is smooth, then it's a pleasant experience. But if there is a rock on the side, it doesn't matter to you. So in all three of them, there is varying degrees of goodness and badness. So priyatvam is, so we have the astitvam, bhatitvam, and priyatatvam. Priyatvam, sorry, not priyatatvam, but priyatvam. That means this is how the world is. Okay. So this is the elements of the cognition of the world. And so now we are talking about the sajatiya, the jati between the atma and the anatma. This is the anatma. So these are the three fundamental. Other than that, there are some names and forms, some changes here and there, but the fundamental aspect of the world has these three aspects. Okay. Now let's go to the sakshi, to the atma. So let's examine the atma from those three perspectives. So does the atma have sat? Does it have astitvam? Not only does the atma have sat, astitvam, sat, but as we have already talked about, and we will repeatedly point this out, in fact, not only does the atma have sat, and this is very relevant to this discussion, atma alone is the sat. As we said before, there is a big difference between atma is the sat and atma alone is the sat. There is nothing else other than the atma which is the sat. How do we know this? How can we accept this? So here we're talking about the sakshi, the atma. We're not talking about the jiva, the human being that is surrounded by some forms of the body, mind. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the atma. The atma alone is, in fact, I think what I should say is to say you alone are the sat. And so each one of you, each one of us is the sat. So, but from the standpoint of one, let's just stick with the analysis of one person. What is all life all about? Because the other things we will see don't really, they're not that crucial in this analysis. What is crucial in the analysis is the consistency. You look at my life. What does it consist of? What are the elements? What is the future? Where am I going? All of those kinds of things. You have to be staying with that. If that is the case, you alone are the sat. This is a very important thing to see. And this sat is, why is it? How can we say that? Because you alone don't disappear. You alone don't change. Everything else changes. Everything else may be there, may not be there. But you are always there. Look at this. And don't think about whenever I say you are always there, don't make a doubt and say, but I'm also was not there, I may not be there. So those are all unfounded assumptions that have no proof. Look at the proof. Be a scientist. The proof of it is that you alone are always there. In whatever experience you are there. At whatever times you are there. At whatever place you are there. You are there in all avasthas. You are there in the dream. You are there in the Jagrat avastha. You are there in the sleep. You are there. And you alone are. So the Atma is the Sat. Astitvam. And in fact, we will see as we complete this analysis that your Sat is the one that is borrowed by others, by your experiences, by the objects, by the world. Your Sat is the only aparoksha. Here Swami Khandananda points out very beautifully that if you look at the entire universe, there are two aspects that are dependent on you. So one is called the pratyaksha, which is directly perceived by you. And they depend on you. They depend on your cognition. Otherwise, they are not there. Again, we are looking at one individual. Let's stick with that. That is the analysis. None of the pratyaksha. Anyway, so forget about the dependency for a minute. Let's just look at the pratyaksha. Define what pratyaksha is. Pratyaksha means directly perceived. Right now, what you're looking at, what you're feeling, what you're touching, all those kinds of this is pratyaksha. The other one is paroksha. So paroksha means that it is there, but not in my direct perception. And included in this, by the way, is the most important one, is Ishvara. Ishvara is also paroksha. If there is a Ishvara, it is obviously paroksha. It's not pratyaksha. But even without that going that far to the Ishvara, there are lots of other places that are paroksha. We know there is, if you are in the US, we know there is India. But it's not directly, I cannot see it right now. Even some other town, another place, another person, all paroksha. So the pratyaksha has some astitvam. Paroksha also has some astitvam. But none of them are aparoksha, which is the Sakshi, which is the Atma, which is you. And the only thing one can say, this is the important statement in our Shastra, Sakshat aparokshat jnanam. Sakshat aparokshat jnanam. So aparokshat jnanam means that the knowledge of the fact that I am the aparoksha. But it is very possible that you may not yet see, or you may not have seen it previously, that you are the aparoksha. So there was not sakshat. Sakshat means directly. Directly means not conditional to anything. But once it is revealed, it becomes sakshat aparoksha. So the aparoksha, which is the sat, it should be seen. This is now being revealed. We have already talked about it. We have revealed it. Is swayam siddha. It doesn't need any proof. As we have said, you cannot go to a doctor and say, am I there? Everything is based on the fact that you are there. But you are there doesn't need any proof. That's already there. This is the sakshat aparoksha. And the knowledge of this is sakshat aparokshat jnanam. So anyway, going back to our review of the sajatiyatvam, we see that the Atma also has Sat. The Word also has Sat. And the Atma also has Sat. Anatma also has Sat, and the Atma also has Sat. Let's go to the next fact, which is Bhanam, Chit. Because the world is also known. It has isness and it is knownness. Does the Atma have knownness? My God, of course Atma has knownness. This is the one that is most directly sakshat aparoksha. Because it's your experience about everything in the world. I know. I know. Knownness is the very nature of the Atma. This is what we talked about earlier about prajnanam. So jnanam is the worldly knowledge, which is I know this, I know that, I don't know this, I don't know that. These are all various forms of experiential knowledge. Behind that is the prajnanam. I know. Because if it was not there, if I knownness is not there, you cannot even say I don't know. See, look at that. You cannot say I don't know. Like we have talked about, do you know some language? Russian. Do you know Russian? That's the question. And the person who is asked this question just draws a blank. Has no idea. It's kind of like in a coma. A person in a coma, you cannot just go and ask, do you know any Russian? But any person who is not asleep or is in a coma will either know or do I know Russian or I don't know Russian. So both I know Russian as well as I don't know Russian is known by you. So this phenomena of knowing something and not knowing something, being there or not being there, etc. We'll come back to in a little bit, but let me complete this analysis. So we've already talked about astitvam. We already talked about bhanatvam. Bhanatvam means or chitatvam, knowingness. Then the third one is anantam, anandam. So here, those two are the same, anantam and anandam. But let's look at it from the standpoint of anantam first. Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Don't you see that the Atma is Ananta? If you are the Sat, the definition of Sat meaning not conditioned by anything, that means you are Anantam. Is your Sat ever not there? You cannot even try not to be. You're always there. Anantam. I know. Is it ever? Does it ever end? Do you see the ending? In order to see the ending, that you must be conscious, a conscious person who sees the ending. You are that conscious person. You're always there. Anantam. And then comes Priyatvam. And so that means everything else may be priyam or apriyam, maybe attractive or unattractive, good or bad. But the Atma is never unattractive, never unaccepted. This is the meaning of this verse, Aham Asmi Sada Bhami. This is why this is a Mahavakya. I've seen it being quoted as a Mahavakya. Tattvamasi is a Mahavakya, but this verse is also a Mahavakya. And the Mahavakya means that the Lakshana of Brahman is, Brahman means God, Ishvara. So the Lakshana of Brahman, Lakshana means something which is unique. That's what Lakshana is. The word Lakshana means one that distinguishes something from everything else. It's unique. And the Lakshana of Ishvara is Satchidananda. It is always there, beyond any limitations. And it knows, it's aware. And it is apriyaha. Kadachit nahi apriyaha. Never apriyaha, Never apriyaha. Means it has an idea. We saw all of this from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, that everything else is conditional, but the love for the Atma is unconditional. So you may like something, or you may start to dislike it because it gives you problems. So those are all conditional love. But the love for the Atma is unconditional. So this verse is a Mahavakya. Why is it a Mahavakya? Mahavakya means what? Mahavakya means that it removes any duality which is the source of any problems. Any problems must have duality, because there must be some otherness than you in order to make you unhappy or to be fearful. This is the principle of life. The reason we love our children is because I see them as an extension of me. I don't see them as other. So this is a Mahavakya. Why? Because let's read it. Ahamasmi sada bhami. So you can, the word sada means anantam, always, without any time. So you can say sadasmi, sada bhami, kadachit naham apriya. I'm never non-accepting of myself. If I am non-accepting of myself, that is only because of I see myself as a body or a mind. But the Atma, you do not have any non-acceptance. So now the second line is the Mahavakya. Ahamasmi sadabhami kadachit naham na aham apriya Brahma eva aham iti siddham. So it says this is the Lakshana of Brahman. And guess what? That is the same Lakshana for the Atma, for you. Brahma eva aham siddham. Siddham means this is the proof. What else do you need? Everything else is because of non-proof. Without thinking. Vivekananda points this out so beautifully in one of the books that I was reading. He says, without inquiring into it, we have just accepted that I'm different from everybody else. I'm different from others, other people. I'm different from the world. I'm different from Ishvara. I'm all separate by myself. This is why we have problems. Ishvara, whenever you have dukkha, Ishvara gives the signal, you are not different from me, my dear. Why are you acting as though you are different? You're going to have problems. Don't do that. See the world as I see it. You're not different from me. This is the lesson of the Ishvara. And the world gives me the same thing. The world always kicks me because I see it as being different. I'm only clinging to a few things. This is me, this is mine, and the other ones are different. Both the Ishvara and the world, both the Paroksha Vastus, Pratyaksha and Paroksha, they combine together to say, my goodness, please do not take yourself as separate from things. You know what will happen? You will die. You will become a piece of, your death is going to take you. If you want immortality, Don't take yourself to be separate from people, from others, from Ishvara. So the second line of this verse is the Mahavakya. Because it says, look, this is the definition of Brahman. Aham, Astitvam, Bhanatvam, and Priyatvam. Isn't it? This is how we define Ishvara. Ishvara means that the very definition of Ishvara, I may not see that, is that it always is. It is the boss. So this comes from the Varat Pratyaya. Ishaha, Varat, Ishvaraha. Always the boss. Always the boss means what? Things go back and forth, there may be changes and so on, but Ishvara is always beyond all that. Good. And it is aware. It's not asleep. And the third one is it is always happy. This is the Lakshana of Brahman. Our Shastra says, my dear, you are the same. Don't you see this? Ahamasmi sadabhami kadachit naham apriyaha. This is my Lakshana. And this is the Lakshana of Brahman, so the two are the same. Where is the difference? I don't understand. That's what it says. Brahma eva aham atasiddham Satchidananda Lakshana. What a beautiful Mahavakya. So now we can go back to our analysis. We have now completed it in terms of the Sajatiyatvam of the Drik and the Drishya, the Sakshi and the world, Atma and the Anatma. They belong to the same family. So you know what this means? Now we can draw some conclusions. Beaming to the same family, that doesn't really do anything. That is just the start. What that means is the following. You alone, you know what this analysis leads to? Is an understanding of Advaita. It's not belonging to the same family. This means about Advaita. Going from Dvaita to Advaita. Making that leap. This is the analysis. How? Because the astitvam of the world borrows its astitvam from the unconditional astitvam of I, Ahamasmi. See this fact. All cognitions belong to the Atma. So the seer is nothing but the Atma, and the seen also is nothing but a reflection of the Atma. A reflection of the Atma is not a different person. Looking yourself at the mirror, even though it looks like you, is not are not two people. You alone are, the other one is your copy. And so this Sajatiyatvam, belonging to the same family, is a very important thing to understand the Advitiyatvam. They are not two separate things. They are the same thing. And so here Swami Akhandananda Ji is very beautifully pointed out. He said, you look at the Atma, and the Atma is complete. Complete means Purnaha. Purna means that doesn't lack anything. It is in fact the total. It is independent of time. It's immortal, independent of time, independent of desha, place, independent of any vastu. It is the Satyam Jnanam Anantam. This is the person. But because the person doesn't know this, there is self-ignorance. Therefore, the person projects the world outside of himself or herself. So the projection of the world, the experience of the world is nothing but an outcome of non-understanding of the self. That's exactly what happens in a dream. So this example is presented by the Ishvara as we have seen. Because there what happens is your astitvam, you are a person that goes to sleep. But because of the nidra, because of this very powerful aspect of Maya or Ajnanam called nidra. So nidra means the sleep is a very powerful thing. It's not an ordinary thing. Because if it was suppose it is not like it is it is some kind of a curtain that hides you from yourself. Like if this light is falling on me, I can put this book in front of me to block the light. So this is called hiding. Nidra is more than hiding. It first hides yourself from you, and you are the one who is creating the nidra. But once it hides yourself from you, it now projects a different world. So this is exactly what is happening to us. This is called Mula Vidya, Mula Avidya. This is the basic ignorance about myself. So, my taking the form of a life. See, this is a very beautiful analysis. Just look at this. My taking a life, my whole reason for being born is an attempt to find myself. Because I'm complete. And there's a problem in my finding that. So I project a world and I try to go for some temporary completion, which gives me great joy. But the basic ignorance remains. So the whole projection is nothing but an image of myself. And not realizing that I am the basic Sat. Exactly this is what happens. And in fact, now we can see this. that so there are three aspects of myself. And so here we can say their gunas come into the picture. Sattva guna, rajoguna and tamoguna. In fact, just look at the two ones. Rajoguna means the very process of projection. Because I want something. I want to be a complete person. So that is where the rajoguna comes in. But I'm confused. I'm misled. I think that I just want to be a very powerful person or a rich person. It doesn't do that. It's not lasting. So that's the rajoguna. But now let's look at sattva-guna and tamoguna. So what happens is that from the tamoguna, the projection is that of solidity of the world. Because tamoguna gives solidity. The reason why this is a table is because it has lots of tamoguna. Tamas. So tamas means inactivity, solidity, not moving. So the projection of myself through the tamoguna imparts the solidity of the world. And the sattva guna imparts the knowerness of the person. See, now let's go into the triputi. Triputi means the triad, how the projection takes place. Let's look at that. So how a projection takes place is that a basic prajnanam divides itself up into two parts, the knower and the known. This is how jnanam comes about. I know this. When you say that I know Russian, so there is a person that knows Russian, and there is a language called Russian. And so the knower of Russian is the projection of prajnanam through the sattva guna as well as the tamoguna as the projection. So the sattva guna brings grahakatvam and the tamoguna brings grahyatattvam, grahyatvam. Grahatam means the knower, grahya means the known. This is how the projection takes place. And it's all in the same family. So the world also is nothing but Sat, but a varying Sat. And the world also has Bhanatvam, but a varying Bhanatvam. I know this, I don't know this, varying. It is there, it is not there, changes. It's all, but the basic aspect of that is the Sat and the Chit of the Atma. This is the phenomenon. So therefore, it is speaking, the Atma is Advaya. Is Advaya. Advaya means there is no plurality in my reality. Only in my non-reality there is plurality. in the reality of myself, the truth of myself, there is no plurality, no bheda, no differences. The differences are only on the surface, but the truth of the differences is non-difference. It is the same. I am always the Atma. Ahamasmi sadabhami kadachit naham na aham apriya brahma eva aham atassiddham satchidananda lakshanam. I am the Atma, I am also the world. And then, here, Swami Akhandananda points out, so this is what is called Sharanagati. You know, when you fall at the feet of Ishvara, if you were to meet Ishvara and you say, I take your refuge, what does it mean? What does it really Sharanagati mean? So there's a lot of instructions on what Sharanagati is. But basically what Sharanagati is that Ishvara tells you, please view the world as I view it. This is all my body, my projection. See as non-difference. In a very simple, practical, everyday world, you can see this. That supposing you are talking to someone in the family or outside, and the other person says something that I think I want to do this, and you feel this is not good. That's not the way we should do it. So to block that point of view of that person creates some problems for you. But if you were to mold your thinking to say, okay, inside you say this is not the right thing to do, but since you are doing it, you want to do it, I'll go along with it. So this is a kind of a fusion of two minds. There is also a mind of the other person. There is also a wantingness, some desire of the other person. And your desire and the other person's desire happens to clash. But if you were to give in and just accept it, there is no dukkha in your life. So the only dukkha, the only problems that come in our life, is because we want to block things from us, from others. We want it in this is exactly what it means, is that I want to be different. But if you just give in, you'll find, there is a certain loss of perhaps of ego, that, I am, the other person wanted something. I'm just giving in as an example. Because really speaking, most of the problems we have is a sense of differences. Let it be, whatever happens. If you do that, this is what Ishvara is saying. He says, I see the world. I see everything as being nothing but myself. And it says, if you also begin to see that, all your dukkha will go. See if I wanted to. So now we can understand the promise of the Kenopanishad, the book that we had published several years ago when we did Kenopanishad. But we are taking the second chapter, verse number 4, as you know. We've quoted that. So we can now see the meaning of that in view of the analysis that we have done. It says, verse number 4 of the second chapter means, because before that, as you know, question was, how are things happening? What is Keneshatam patati manaha? How is the mind following whose command? And who is the boss? What's happening here? This was the previous background. So, verse number 4 was saying, Pratibodha viditam matam amritatvam hi vindate atmana vindate viryam vidyaya vindate amritam. Beautiful verse, very important verse. So he says, don't you see? You are there as the Sat from which the Sat of the world is coming. Don't you see that you are the Chit from which all the knowingness of the world is coming? So if you experience the various aspects of the world, the fact that it is there, the fact that it is known, is due to your satta and your chit. Don't you see that? And in fact, suppose you were to look for the Atma, you have to look at the world. Because the world cannot be without the Atma. There is the Atma. So in explaining this verse, Adi Shankara goes into great detail. Pratibodha viditam. Pratibodhita means in each bodha. Pratibodha. Bodham prati, bodham prati. So here's prati. Pratibodha can also have different meaning. For example, in the Dhyana Shloka, it says Pratibodha means that the Krishna had taught this to Arjuna. So there it is the relative nature of the teacher and the Shishya, which is called Pratibodha. But here, the meaning of Pratibodha is different. Here the meaning is in each cognition, in each experience. You cannot have an experience without yourself. So this is where Swami Akhandananda has really beautifully pointed out. He says, all we have to do to ascertain the Atma, the unchanging Atma, which is what we all want to do, is to shift your attention from the seen to the seer. That's it. Your thoughts should be going to not the seen, because this is exactly how our life is. We're so busy in analyzing the world, so busy in looking at differences, so busy in experiencing different aspects and so on. This is all part of drishya. What is happening in the world, what are the politics, this, that, or the other. We're busy. We are completely consumed by it. This is called pratibodha. Pratibodha means bodham, pratibodham, pratibodham, bodham, bodham. The various cognitions, various experiences. This is what the whole world is. This is what our life is. But if you were to shift the attention from the drishya to the drik, how does it happen? You will discover that you are there in all of the experiences. This takes a lot of introduction to thinking, shravanam, mananam, but the basic advice is excellent. You have to, if you want to really make progress, if you want to really to become mature, if you want to gain freedom, if you are a mumukshu, then you have to disregard the drishya. Disregard means if you have to eat, you have to go to the bathroom, if you have to buy things, that's okay. But this whole involvement on just doing things from an outside, it's hiding the fact that it is really depending on you. If you were to do that, this is what this verse is saying. Pratibodha viditam matam. If you are understanding how the cognition takes place, amritatvam hi vindate. You gain immortality, my dear. Focusing on the drishya is mortality. Focusing on the drik is immortality. Pratibodha viditam matam amritatvam hi vindate atmana vindate viryam. Second line. Atmana. How is that going to happen? You have to gain the strength of self-analysis, of your own thinking, self-examination. The world will not do this for you. Atma Kripa. Yes, Ishvara will introduce you to the Shastra and to the Guru. So Ishvara Kripa is there, Shastra Kripa is there, Guru Kripa is there. But the real Guru, we saw that. Andhakaros, Gukarastandhakaro vai, Rukarasta Nivartaka, Guru Ityabhidhiyate. The real Guru is your own knowledge that dispels the sense of limitation. That is the Guru. All of us are trying to make you see this You have to do it. You have to decide. Atmana vindate viryam. Viryam has two aspects to it. One is to the farsightedness, the wisdom, the maturity. And the other one is the strength, abhyasa. You have to don't be easily disturbed. To choose a path and to keep at it, this is all part of the viryam. Atmana vindate viryam. Means that you yourself need to understand that you are already complete and pursue that. Vidyaya vindate amritam. So if you know this, the fact that you are the very Sat, you are the very Chit, amritatvam vindate, it becomes, there is no other way to do it. No other way. This is the way to do it. So this gives the basic analysis of the Atma and the Anatma being in the same jati. So really speaking, to see that the world is nothing but your own copy, reflection. And it is just, it's like looking at your reflection and not understanding who you are. So once that is done, then prajnanam becomes your dominant thinking, not just jnanam. So I think this analysis is now complete. So what we will do from next time on is to shift gears and to now look at some very beautiful aspects of this prajnanam, which is also called apaurushaya jnanam. Prajnanam is also called apaurushaya jnanam. Apaurushaya means this is not the human knowledge. This is the ultimate knowledge which is given to you. You have it, but you don't know it. This is called apaurushaya jnanam. And so now we will see about several aspects of apaurushaya jnanam which will bring out itself in your consciousness, in your thinking. No consciousness, in your thinking. So we will look at several aspects of that in a very systematic way. So I'm following the lead of Swami Akhandananda in doing this. So that is a kind of like a new topic, all belonging to the same general family, but that we will start from next week on. Okay? All right, with that, I close the class today. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Not sure why I'm not able to see all the people in the chat. I see only 3: Keshav Chopra, and Shri Greenbaum, and Shantikumar Chiluka. That's only the 3 for some reason. The others are not seen. Something is not right in the way this is presented to me. Because I see there are 18 people that are watching, but I only see those 3. So I'm sorry I'm not able to see. See if I can change some settings to make the others also see. So Chaula Joshi says, can you see now? So that's the 4th one. But then I don't see any others, only the 4 of you, Chaula just said. So the others must be there, but yeah, I'm changing all the settings, Chaula, but I don't seem to. It says live chat. Anyway, something is not quite right. But anyway, I hope that you, thank you for joining this class. And Shri says, my chat box indicates there was a chat disconnected before Keshav Chopra. You know, it probably has to do with taking the spam out of it. Sometimes if they see there was message, something, then it would take them out. So that possibly was be one of it. But the main thing is that you hopefully attended the class, and if you did, then please. Okay, Keshav says, I see all but no questions. Okay, good. All right, we'll see you next week. Hari Om.